This video is going to be a look at the Lions defense and their week 6 win over the Bucs. What I originally started out to do was to do a film study video on Cam Sutton Tuesday night. Unable to get that done. What my intention would be is to show some of his coverages across multiple games. So we got 6 games of film, and I'd like to do a Cam Sutton video probably Wednesday evening utilizing film from multiple games. So what this one's going to do is look at some of the coverage variations that Aaron Glenn chose to use in the first half, really. And we're going to deal with a number of third downs, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7 calls, and you're going to see how versatile they are. And I'll have to describe the coverages for you. It's not going to be any graphics necessarily that I've created. This is first possession, 2nd and 8 from the negative 27-yard line, either 12 personnel or 21 personnel, depending on how the Buccaneers classify that. And I think it's number 41. But you can see you've got two guys playing the tight end position in an ace formation. It's under center, 16-yard completion. What I think is cover 3, but Derek Barnes is committing to the run, number 1. And then number 2, he's thinking that there's going to be an over concept behind him, going against the grain of the run concept. And I want you to keep this play in mind for later on. Number 1, you've clearly got an 8-man front for the Lions. I think Campbell's dropping out here. I think Anzalone's dropping out to the flats here. These two guys, Tracy Walker and Derek Barnes, are responding to the play action, coming downhill in the case of Barnes. And so what you have is Godwin open on the over concept, Yankee concept with a clear out from the bottom side. Keep that in mind for a red zone play that I'll show you from the 5th possession to end this video today. One thing these guys do pre-snap is they communicate a lot. Occasionally you'll see what I believe is half-field coverages because you'll see 2 different hand signals made on one on each side of the field. That one was kind of ubiquitous. As soon as Jack Campbell made a call, everybody else echoed the call. All right, same possession. This is a 3rd and 9. I think you've got a split field read coverage here. You'll see Kirby Joseph fly out of here. First of all, it's great coverage by Anzalone, into the boundary, which is where you're going to see him all the time. I talked about this in a video film study I did on him. Basically, he's going to run with this attempted wheel route by the running back. But I think you've got a great example of what they're trying to do with Kirby Joseph sometimes. He ends up, I think, reading the running back's release and then flying out of there to the middle of the field, leaves Jerry Jacobs pretty much one-on-one with this in cut by the tight end. I think there was a little bit of a mix-up to the top side between Barnes, and I think that's Will Harris in terms of who's going to take that deeper out route by Mike Evans. Kind of like a little bit of a sail concept up there, except you don't have an underneath route of Evans. You don't really get a hand signal pre-snap from anybody here, but you will in a moment on another play that I think is a split field call. And if you're unfamiliar with that terminology, what I mean is you got 2 different coverages being called, one on this bottom side of the field, whatever it is, and then a second coverage being called on the top side of the field to match the receivers depending on their release. Some people call it pattern match, some people call it man match. Whatever you want to call it, it's just split field coverages, matching the routes based upon sometimes the width, sometimes the situation, and sometimes the personnel. Second possession, this is going to be the interception by Will Harris. I think you've got like a possibility of a quarter half here at some point, but both safeties are coming downhill because they're reading RPO. And the RPO did hit the Lions, I think, twice. This is an amazing play by Isaiah Bugs. I think he's played extremely well since he's been active. Remember, he was inactive for, I think, 2 weeks to begin the season. But he's trying to open up this offensive lineman's body to be able to clear through this lane. Additionally, you've got these 2 safeties have read the mesh, and they're thinking RPO. So the front side guy, Joseph, is thinking RPO to this guy. And then I think Tracy Walker is thinking backside RPO to what I believe is Evans. It ends up being Evans up the sideline. I'm sorry, Evans to the downside of the screen. And he's wide open. The announcers covered it very well that if Bugs doesn't get a hand on that ball, it's very possible that it's a 92-yard touchdown for Evans. Anzalone coming downhill with the run fake. Campbell not as committed. And then Harris, I think, has come downhill with the run fake, and now he's going outside to get into the flat. So Your guess is as good as mine as what we've got here because it's a play action. It makes everything kind of look unsettled, just like that first play I showed you where I claimed that it was cover 3, but the play action can kind of ruin the distribution of the defensive player. So after that interception, Lions are held to a field goal, obviously, by a really strong Bucs defense. This is third possession. This is 2nd and 4, and this is going to be a completion to the top side. I think it's Tampa 2. Why am I telling you the coverages? To show you as a Lions fan how multiple the defense is between zones. I call this a hard-coded zone versus split field coverage, which is pattern match. You're trying to match the routes. Well, not every coverage is pattern match. Some coverages are hard-coded. So what I mean by hard-coded, I'm going to pause it here for a moment. Let's get to the Tampa 2 element. I think you've got a pretty clear indicator that Barnes is opening up to the passing strength, and he's ready to run between the hashes with a deep seam route, or a post route, or a climb route, or anything. Additionally, look at the mirrored nature of these two corners. Back to the sideline, chest or face mask into the middle of the field. In this case, looking at the quarterback, obviously, but talking about the framework of their body where their face mask is facing. So you've got zone focus. Moving from outside in, the second defender from the sideline at the second level, you got those guys basically playing the hook area. Also, you got, I think it's Bugs dropping out of there. So it's a 3-man rush out of a Tampa 2. So really cool little adjustment, if you ask me, that Aaron Glenn threw in there. I have no idea, why they did that. I certainly don't see anybody communicate anything to Bugs at all prior to this. So this was called in the huddle, I guess, or maybe prior to the ball being snapped because the Lions recognized the trips. But anyway, you're talking a Tampa 2 with a 3-man rush, somewhat unique or a little bit rare. Same possession, 3rd and 12, I believe. You got cover 3. And Anzalone again has walked up. Remember, he walked up earlier and played man. Well, now he's walked up and buzzed out into the flats. It's a hard-coded coverage, okay? So you're talking about mirrored look on both sides of the field. Cover 3 corner, cover 3 corner, middle of the field free safety. There's your 4 underneath droppers. This is very clean and easy to identify for a layman like all of us. The split field coverages, you get into some more variation from one side of the field to the other, and it's really difficult to know. It's damn near impossible in some cases because we don't know what call the defenders made on the field to match the alignment, the pre-snap alignment of the receivers, number one, in anticipating the routes based upon their width and the personnel that's there. Cover 3, they're not able to get to Mayfield and contain him. You got a switch blitz down here with Harris and the D tackle. I love the aggressiveness by Hutchinson, who was, obviously kind of quiet on the day in terms of pressures and sacks. 4th possession now. You got a 3rd and 6. I think you've got a quarter split field coverage here. Look at the guys communicating. We'll run this back a couple of times. Hopefully it doesn't get annoying to you. It is a completion to Godwin for 10 yards, but I'll run this back, and keep in mind what I'm claiming to you is that you've got the ball here on the right hash, that you've got basically one coverage call to this side of the field and then a second coverage call to this side of the field. Maybe I need to get a better marker like I talked about in a previous video. I'm going to replay this multiple times, so if it gets annoying, forgive me for that. Look at the 2 different hand signals you're getting. One on the bottom side of the field, Harris, Jacobs, and I think Joseph, giving some kind of signal to each other. You can see them turning their helmets and looking. These 2 guys clearly giving a similar signal with their right hand, almost like they're pinching something. Up to the top side, let's check those guys out. Tracy Walker is not communicating over here at all. These 3 guys are communicating independently. Barnes has switched with the passing strength, so now he went from focusing and being a part of this call down here to a part of the call at the top side, probably because you've got 3 potential receivers up to that side, the running back, the tight end, and Godwin, who motioned over. Your guess is as good as mine as what split field coverage call it is. Certainly doesn't appear to be, man everywhere he goes, or Meg, or whatever you want to call it, because if it were, I think Cam Sutton will be lined up a little bit tighter on this 3rd and 6. Just trying to give you a little bit of insight as to what they're doing pre-snap. Feel free to give me your thoughts in the comment section on those hand signals, but they look pretty drastically different between the two halves of the field. Cover 3 on a 3rd and 12. This is actually the same possession. The Bucs offense switched sides from the end of the first quarter to the second. 3rd and 12. It's going to be incomplete to Evans. It's a drop. I think you've got cover 3. So if you're trying to figure out pre-snap what coverage it could be, I mean, I like to do that sometimes, but I'm usually typing notes up, and it's kind of difficult to do. One of the indicators appears to be Kirby Joseph lined up down here to the boundary. It looks to me like when they're playing this version of cover 3, Anzalone is going out to the flats to the boundary. Joseph is taking the hook to curl area between the hash and the top of the numbers. Barnes is taking the other corresponding area, and then I think that's Harris who's going to buzz out to the other flats. Again, it's cover. I'm claiming to you that it's cover 3. Now it's 3rd and long, so Joseph isn't going to be standing feet here because the sticks are there. The sticks are the 44. So for him to be heels on the 45, that's a good thing because he can come downhill and make a tackle on anything. As it stands, he kind of gets sucked in a little bit towards the middle of the field. Maybe he's looking at the quarterback and sensing or having some awareness of this route developing here. Kind of gets moved into the middle of the field by that route, or maybe Baker Mayfield's face mask, but in any case, it opens up Evans on the deep curl. He ends up making a drop, unfortunately, for Bucs fans. A lot of man free in these last 4 plays. This is 5th possession now. Bucs are near midfield. This is going to be a completed pass to Trey Palmer, the rookie out of Nebraska. You can see a lot of guys up the line of scrimmage bringing pressure. Man, pure man if you ask me, but someone is responsible for the back. So when you're talking about rushers, and this is also one of the things that kind of annoys me, people talking about how many rushers a team brings. It looks to me like Joseph is going to be responsible for the back, potentially, but normally Anzalone is. And then once that running back lines up there to clearly pass pro, Joseph drops out. I could be wrong there. It could have been Anzalone who was responsible for that back, and then Anzalone decides to blitz or is assigned to blitz once that running back shifts up as like a sniffer to help in the pass protection. One of those two things I suspect is true. Everybody else is in man. Palmer beats Will Harris across his face, across the field. Evans is running here. Sutton is clearly delayed and a lot of room there, but he's trying to navigate switching with the two over concepts, basically deep cross. Palmer 21 yards for a first down. Same possession. 2nd and 3. I think you've got man match here by these guys, but a little unsure. It ends up being a DPI or a hold, on Harris against Mike Evans. Could just be man. There's no pre-snap. Don't see any signals by those guys at all. I try to do this for the Ravens too, and try to figure out what their calls are, what their hand signals are. Anzalone, interestingly, is on the tight end here. And really, to me, I guess really this should be considered probably man-free, actually, is what this is. I think I read their next... I did. I read the next play that I have in my sequence. My apologies. So you got 2 safeties that are free, and by putting Anzalone on the tight end, one of these safeties can drop down, theoretically take away a slant or anything like that. The other safety can drop back to center field. Some people call this robber and man free. It's just synonymous stuff. You're talking about a 4-man rush with one guy on the running back and then someone responsible for middle of the field low hole and someone responsible for middle of the field deep. Now, the low hole player, normally, somewhere in that area there, in this case, it ends up being this safety. He drops down. Looks like he's anticipating maybe a slant or something like that, an in-breaking route from the twin side, what was bunch, before he motioned away. Here's the hold by Harris, by the way. I think Barnes is responsible for the back in here, who's right in there. You can see he collisions him and then starts to run with him out into the flats. Get a hold that gives the Bucs a first down. So that was actually man-free. I misspoke. This is man-match, in my opinion. is a great play by Anzalone on the running back out into the flats. I talked about this in 2 separate videos. When I'm saying man match, I'm talking about what these guys do on these crossers. Jacobs and Sutton, they allow the crossers to be passed over to the other guy. Joseph takes over the first crosser, and Sutton passes off his guy over to Jacobs on the other side. You'll see them both actually through. You can tell this is drilled in practice. You can see them both throw their arm up in the air, pointing. Jacobs is doing it here first because his guy was a little bit shorter release, so he sees it first naturally. And then now Sutton, once his guy releases inside, Sutton is also going to point. So you can tell they drill that in practice in terms of pointing. It's common sense, right? You take him, I'll take him. Kirby Joseph helped cover it up. So I would call that man match. Interestingly as well, you've got Barnes in this fullback's face. I think 41's a fullback. Campbell in that tight end's face. They appear to be in man coverage. But Walker is down there to the boundary as well. So they could have some kind of you, me call, meaning if 88 steps to Walker, then Walker takes him and Campbell would blitz. Kind of like a bear coverage concept. If 88 steps to Campbell, then Campbell would take him and Walker would blitz. And they can do that because they've assigned Anzalone to the back and Barnes to that guy, so they can do a little bit of a combo coverage there on the tight end. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. So you're seeing multiple coverage variations out of the Lions just in the first half. If you're a Ravens fan and you're watching this, and I will try to cover this in the previews, it'll be like a long night for me Wednesday and Thursday night, but it's really super fun trying to catch up with what NFL teams are doing. It's really challenging. Last one, I think you got straight man free here, and it's a great play by Jerry Jacobs. Definitely an opportunity to get the ball to Evans down here against Sutton to the bottom side of the field. Compare this with the 1-2 plays ago where I initially misspoke and said I thought it was man match, and it ended up being just man free. Typical man free, like I drew up earlier, you got a low hole dropper somewhere in that area, maybe a little deeper, and then someone middle of the field, deeper than that. I can't draw deeper than that because I only got so much screen. And then watch how this works out. Walker drops down, and I think you've got Sutton on Evans, Walker on the tight end. Joseph is now your middle of the field free safety. Anzalone, like normal, is on the running back, and Barnes is your low hole dropper in the middle of the field. It's just man free, 4-man rush. I will say this, from a Ravens perspective, that's one of the most dangerous coverages to play against Lamar Jackson, because if you only bring 4, it is very difficult to get to him consistently and not have him be able to just take off through some of these spaces. And Mike Tomlin said it best 2 weeks ago when the Ravens played the Steelers. He said, what sense does it make to put a spy on Lamar Jackson? You put a spy on him, just going to make the guy miss. So they would bring 5. And that's what the answer's been for a lot of teams this year. So when I'm watching this also with an eye towards a lot of the previews that I'm going to try to bring to Ravens fans and Lions fans, which I said are going to be, pretty challenging because we're going to try to make them as comprehensive as possible. It's a really cool selection of plays, for me at least, in my opinion, because of how diverse the coverage concepts were, the pre-snap and post-snap communication that the Lions defenders clearly showed, and hopefully I was able to describe to you, and how well some of their coverage was in certain situations. Baker Mayfield did miss some throws in the second half, don't get me wrong. I think the Lions threw a lot at him. I think their coverage is pretty good, seeing as how they're missing, Mosley's, out for the year again, unfortunately. Brian Branch as well. 2 big pieces for what their intentions were. Jerry Jacobs playing well. Cam Sutton is obviously playing well. Tracy Walker stepped in and made an impact as well. You guys let me know what you think of the video and me describing to you some of the coverages. What I hope to do in the next 48 hours is look at about 50 plays from all over the field and get me a little piece of paper and chart parts of the field where the Lions are playing certain coverages. I've done that for the Ravens in the past under Wink Martindale, even though it was a little predictable then because, it was man-free pretty much everywhere we were. And then we'd play some cover 2 about the 18, 15, 17-yard line when the opponent was down inside our red zone. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section and what you're looking forward to, if anything, for previews for the Ravens-Lions game in Week 7.